Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
So, we will begin with the next passage, that is our reading comprehension, and here I am going to give you a couple of words. Right away I am telling you, you will have to find the category and meanings of these three words. So, pedagogical, mantra and ethnic, these are the words that I would like you to find the meanings of. Now, let us look at the passage. Please read the slide here. The autobiographical mandate persists and even intensifies for this generation, as write what you know and find your voice become pedagogical mantras, and the experience of coming of age as a minority folds into the story of literary apprenticeship. Philip Roth can be taken as representative in this regard, both insofar as he strove to accommodate the drama of ethnic American identity to the evaluative protocols of the European modernist classics, and also as he was forced to come to terms with the collision between mass cultural celebrity and high cultural reputation. Taking the autobiographical mandate to its ultimate conclusion, Roth chronicles the career of an author who becomes exhausted by itself as the source material for his fiction and dismayed by how his audience confuse him with his protagonist. Roth is able to have his cake and eat it too. He becomes both a contemporary celebrity and a classic author. Now, look at the questions here. Explain the argument within 3 lines and identify the idiom in this passage. So, there are a couple of idioms in this passage. We will not be telling you anymore what is an idiom. Idiom is a turn of phrase or an elegant phrase, which can sometimes be also very cliched, something oft repeated, but anyway it adds a certain elegance, a certain color or variety to your language. So, that is an idiom. And the argument, what is the author's or author's position. So, those are the 3 questions. So, please take 5 minutes and the author basically argues, and it is about Philip Roth, that his career is an example of a combination of the modern requirement for autobiography even within a novel and earlier modernist convention. So, by doing so he has become a contemporary celebrity and also a classic author. So, this is the basic argument, and most important idiom, perhaps there are more, but I can talk about immediately I can tell you that having your cake and eat it too. To have your cake and eat it too is the idiom in the passage. And what does it mean? It means nothing but to have the best of both worlds. Again, this is an idiom, but to have your way and to get away with it is just, they are just very simplistically put, but it is like getting, you can get away with a lot. So, to have your cake and eat it too. Now, try to find the meanings and the word categories of these 3 words. What are they? And look up the dictionary. Now, see, pedagogical is a word that you will come across very frequently in academic circles. That means relating to teaching methods. So, pedagogy of this class, pedagogy of this lecture. So, pedagogically an innovative technique. So, that is the way we use it. It is an adjective, pedagogy is a noun, pedagogical is an adjective. Mantra is taken from our own cultural tradition, a Hindi, Sanskrit kind of word. It's a noun and a statement or slogan. Literally it means a slogan repeated frequently. Okay. So, for example, the environmentalists or eco-critics have a mantra, okay, and a mantra could be like our biodiversity is under threat, or energy um, for too long, okay, has for too long been too cheap. So, perhaps those are the kinds of things that have become a mantra. Now, ethnic, we often use the word ethnic quite loosely. It is an adjective, of course. It relates to national and cultural origins. So, you must have heard of words like ethnic dress and ethnic sari. Um, by and large, it relates to national and cultural, something that is of national and cultural identity and origin. So, people from a wide variety of ethnic origins. Now, let us move on to the next passage. So, this is a passage that is from F. Scott Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby. We are coming back to literature once again. Please look at the slide. In my younger and more vulnerable years, my father gave me some advice that I have been turning over in my mind ever since. Whenever you feel like criticizing anyone, he told me, just remember that all the people in this world haven't had the advantages that you have had. He didn't say any more, but we have always been unusually communicative in a reserved way, and I understood that he meant a great deal more than that. In consequence, I am inclined to reserve all judgments, a habit that has opened up many curious natures to me and also made me the victim of not a few veteran bores. The abnormal mind is quick to detect and attach itself to this quality when it appears in a normal person, and so it came about that in college I was unjustly accused of being a politician because I was privy to the secret griefs of wild unknown men. Answer the questions here. Let us look at the slide. Now, in my younger and more vulnerable years, here the writer means a time when A, he did not have much experience of the world and people, he did not have a college experience, and he was young and partied a lot. Please look at the choices before I give you the answer. The answer is A, he did not have much experience of the world and people. And why? Because see, the answer comes, the response comes from the passage itself. Vulnerable years, here where you are soft, sensitive, prone to influences, impressionable. So, did not have much experience of the world and people. He may talk about a variety of people that he has come or encountered, but the other two are options are extremely marginal in this context. Let us look at the second question. Look at the slide, please. Answer the following. What does the author mean in the lines? I am inclined to reserve all judgments, a habit that has opened up many curious natures to me and also made me the victim of not a few veteran bores. What does he mean? He is very boring, he is a non-judgmental kind of a person, he is very social. Now, what do you think? So, the answer here is B. He is a non-judgmental kind of a person. Remember, in the previous passage we have been told that his father advised him not to be critical of people, reserve your criticism of other people, right. So, therefore, he is a non-judgmental kind of a person. And then look at this third question. Read the slide, please. What is meant by just remember that all the people in this world haven't had the advantages that you have had? The author had been leading an underprivileged life. The author is asking us to be arrogant. The author is seeking us to be understanding of other people's shortcomings. So, answer C, response C, choice C is the best answer here. Definitely not leading an underprivileged life. That comes across very clearly that not everyone had the advantages you have had. The author is asking us to be arrogant. Maybe it is implied somewhere, but this is not the exact response. The author is asking us to be understanding of other people's shortcomings here. That is the right response. Now, look at the slide here on vocabulary. Fill in the blanks from the passages. You have to select a word that is already given in the passage. Of late, my brother has become moody and the word is in the passage. Though I am not sure, I am dashed to believe that there is trouble in the Mehra's paradise. Anil is a professional and dash at these things. So, the response is, of late my brother has become moody and next one, though I am not sure, I am dashed to believe, I am inclined to believe, I am led to believe that there is trouble in the Mehra's paradise. What is somebody's paradise? Things do not look as good as they appear to be. Anil is a professional and dash at these things. So, what could go, what is the best word that can go along with professional? Veteran. Yeah, veteran is someone who has done it all, been there and done it all. Now, let us look at the second passage. Most of the confidences were unsought. Frequently, I have feigned sleep, preoccupation or a hostile levity when I realized by some unmistakable sign that an intimate revelation was quivering on the horizon. For the intimate revelations of young men, or at least the terms in which they express them, are usually plagiaristic and marked by obvious suppressions. Reserving judgments is a matter of infinite hope. I am still a little afraid of missing something if I forget that, as my father snobbishly suggested, and I snobbishly repeat, a sense of the fundamental decencies is parcelled out unequally at birth. Please go through the passage on your own once more. Let us look at the questions. What does the author mean when he says, a sense of the fundamental decencies is parcelled out unequally at birth? Now, he also uses the word snobbishly. Remember before this? So, it is snobbishly suggested. Who is a snob? Please look at the word snob and how it could be used in various contexts. So, always go back to your Oxford English Language Dictionary, Advanced Language Dictionary, and always try to look up these words. It is used in quite an unusual sense, and a snob directly is someone who feigns superiority all the time. But here the author is calling his father suggestion, rather snobbish suggestion. Why? Now, a sense of the fundamental decency, the idea is that, okay, let us look at the responses. All are equal at birth. Is he suggesting that? All are born equally decent, and human decency, that is the third choice, differs from person to person. So, which do you think? So, if it is snobbish, then it cannot be equality, right? All are equal at birth or all are born equally decent. So, because the sentence has been preceded by the word snobbishly, so human decency differs from person to person. That is the answer, choice C. Let us look at the vocabulary here. Please look at the slide. Fill in the blanks from the passage you have just read. So, she dashed nervousness just to get some sympathy. The bird dash as it flew high above the tall buildings. Rekha is her confidant. Who is a confidant? Who knows her dash most dash secrets. who knows her most dashed secrets? Answer is, she feigned nervousness just to get some sympathy, that is to pretend. The bird quivered as it flew high above the tall, a little shaking, a trembling. And Rekha is her confidant. Person is your confidant when you reveal your secrets. So, who knows her most intimate secrets? So, these are the responses. Look at the third passage, again from The Great Gatsby. Let us read it. And after boasting this way of my tolerance, I come to the admission that it has a limit. Conduct may be founded on the hard rock or the wet marshes, but after a certain point, I do not care what it is founded on. When I came back from the East last autumn, I felt that I wanted the world to be in uniform and at a sort of moral attention forever. I wanted no more righteous excursions with privileged glimpses into the human heart. Only Gatsby, the man who gives his name to this book, was exempt from my reaction. Gatsby, who represented everything for which I have an unaffected scorn. If personality is an unbroken series of successful gestures, then there was something gorgeous about him, some heightened sensitivity to the promises of life, as if he were related to one of those intricate machines that register earthquakes 10,000 miles away. This responsiveness had nothing to do with that flabby impressionability which is dignified under the name of the creative temperament. It was an extraordinary gift for hope, a romantic readiness such as I have never found in any other person, and which it is not likely I shall ever find again. No, Gatsby turned out all right at the end. It is what preyed on Gatsby, what foul dust floated in the wake of his dreams, that temporarily closed out my interest in the abortive sorrows and short-winded elations of men. Please go through the passage on your own. Take a minute. Now, let us look at the questions here. Answer the following. Conduct may be founded on the hard rock or the wet marshes, but after a certain point, I do not care what it is founded on. So, what is the author saying here? Here, the author is commenting on the development of a person's material success, intellectual ability, or comportment. What is the answer? Answer is C, comportment. Comportment is the way a person behaves. So, conduct and behavior, that is like almost like synonyms. The third one. Next question, what is the author's attitude towards Gatsby? Admiration, pity, anger, scorn. What words give you the sense that he is pitying, and what words give you the hint that he is angry? He does mention the word or term scorn. He represented everything that has scorn, but then it is soon followed by but. Okay? So, Gatsby may be having his faults or may have had his faults, but the author is still full of admiration. So, answer is A, admiration. Let us look at the next question. What does the author mean by the word the abortive, or by the expression by the abortive sorrows and short-winded elations of men? A, human life is short. B, petty and trivial emotions of men. And C, inadequacy of human endurance. The word abortive itself means something that comes to a sudden end. So, do you think human life is short? Is that what he is saying? Please read on. Petty and trivial emotions of men. Now, when you look at abortive sorrows, sorrows that do not have much meaning, and short-winded elations that even their agonies and ecstasies do not have much meaning. So, answer is B, petty and trivial emotions of men. Choice C looks quite there, but it is not really. Inadequacy of human endurance. He is not really talking about endurance, he is more into emotions of men. And now let us look at this question. Explain, I want you to explain. I wanted no more righteous excursions with privileged glimpses into the human heart. What does the writer mean? Go through the passage once more. The writer means, and I can only give it to you in my own language, that he was no longer interested into understanding the excitements of human heart. It may be a privilege to understand, but he was no longer interested in that. We move on. Next passage, look at the slide here, and this is an extract, again a literary extract from Peter Suskind's novel Perfume. Let us read. In 18th century France, there lived a man who was one of the most or the most gifted and abominable personages in an era that knew no lack of gifted and abominable personages. His story will be told here. His name was Jean-Baptiste Grenouille, and if his name in contrast to the names of other gifted abominations, the Sades for instance, or Saint-Just, Fauches, Bonaparte, etc., has been forgotten today, it is certainly not because Grenouille fell short of those more famous blackguards when it came to arrogance, misanthropy, immorality, or more succinctly to wickedness, but because of his gifts and his sole ambition were restricted to a domain that leaves no traces in history, to the fleeting realm of scent. The title is Perfume, and look at the very last phrase, fleeting realm of scent. Go through the passage once more on your own. Let us look at the questions now. To answer the following, what does the writer tell us about Jean-Baptiste Grenouille? You have three choices. He was as great as any literary character. Please look at the slide. He had high principles like Bonaparte. He was a terrible person. He was as great as any literary character. He had high principles. Is the author hinting anywhere that Bonaparte had high principles? And he was a terrible person. So this is the right answer. C, choice C. He was a terrible person. Clear gave away from the other word, that is abomination, blackguard, those are the words. So let us look at the vocabulary here. Please look at these words: abominations, personages, succinctly, and misanthropy. What are these words? Find out the categories and the meanings. Abomination is something which is terrible. So, the act itself was an abomination. It is a noun and the adjective is abominable. So, abominable, how terrible it is. Personages, people of certain stature. So, person and personages, a bit archaic kind of a language, but still used when we want to sound highfalutin. Succinctly, briefly, answer in brief or answer give your response very succinctly. So, it is an adverb, personages is a noun, succinctly is an adverb, and misanthropy, it is a noun. Remember, we use mis whenever there is a negative connotation, it is a suffix, and it means someone who is not really fond of people. A misanthrope is a person who does not like people. A misogynist is a person who does not like women. Misanthrope is a person who does not like people in general. Let us go on to passage 5. In the period of which we speak, there reigned in the cities a stench barely conceivable to us modern men and women. The stench of sulphur rose from the chimneys, the stench of caustic lies from the tanneries, and from the slaughterhouses came the stench of congealed blood. People stank of sweat and unwashed clothes. From their mouths came the stench of rotting teeth, from their bellies that of onions, and from their bodies, if they were no longer very young, came the stench of rancid cheese and sour milk and tumorous diseases. The rivers stank, the marketplaces stank, the churches stank. It stank beneath the bridges and in the palaces. The peasant stank, as did the priest, the apprentice as did his master's wife. The whole of the aristocracy stank, even the king himself stank like a rank lion, and the queen like an old goat, summer and winter. For in the 18th century, there was nothing to hinder bacteria busy at decomposition, and so there was no human activity, either constructive or destructive, no manifestation of germinating or decaying life that was not accompanied by stench. This is a passage from Perfume. Now, let us look at the questions. So, following questions are based on passages 4 and 5. Now, why, according to the author Jean-Baptiste Grandois, is not remembered today? We have done this in earlier passage. Now, there are two responses here. He did not achieve anything significant, or he had a rare gift of which there is no evidence remaining. What do you think? So, the answer is obviously he had a rare gift of which there is no evidence remaining, because it came from the fleeting realm of scent. I am not going to give you the plot of Perfume, that is not our intention here, but he does mention the word scent in the very last sentence of the previous paragraph. Now, let us look at this question. What is the tone of the passage 5? It is about this stench. A, awe and admiration, B, disgust, C, terror, and D, indifference. You have to choose between B and C. He is not terrified, but he is disgusted. So, that is the tone of the passage. Everybody stank. It was filled and stank, and bacteria flourished all over the place. So, it is not terror of the unforeseen, but it is disgust by what humanity has been reduced to. Let us move on and look at this slide. Fill in the blanks using the words given in the passages 4 and 5. So, most of his writings so far are equivalent to dash works. Although she is good hearted, people avoid her because of her dash tongue. The building is an eyesore, a complete dash on the city landscape. The chief guest was a dash of an eminent stature. Okay, so let us look at the responses now. A, most of his writings so far are equivalent to dash works. Little difficult question or blank, but then you have to think, go back to 4 and 5 and choose the best word possible. The word here is apprentice. You see, we use apprentice works when we say that they are not yet polished. So, equivalent or nothing more than unpolished works. He is just practicing to be a writer. Although she is good hearted, people avoid her. So, see, she is good, but people do not like her because of her caustic tongue. Caustic is something that bites or hurts. So, caustic tongue. The building is an eyesore, a complete dash on the city landscape. Terrible thing. So, abomination on the city landscape. The chief guest was a personage of an eminent stature. Let us look at passage 6 now. And of course, the stench was foulest in Paris, for Paris was the largest city of France. And in turn, there was a spot in Paris under the sway of a particularly fiendish stench. Between the Rue of Fer and the Rue de la Ferronnerie, the Cimetière des Innocents to be exact. For 800 years, the dead had been brought here from the Hôtel Dieu and from the surrounding parish churches for 800 years, day in, day out. Corpses by the dozens had been carted here and tossed into long ditches. stacked bone upon bone for 800 years in the tomb and charnel houses. Only later, on the eve of the revolution, after several of the grave pits had caved in and the stench had driven the Solon graveyard's neighbors to more than mere protests and to actual insurrection, was it finally closed and abandoned. Millions of bones and skulls were shoveled into the catacombs of Montmartre, and in its place a food market was erected. Let us look at the exercises here. Fiendish, insurrection, catacombs, shovel, congealed. Now, I want you to do this exercise in pairs and find the meanings yourself. I won't be discussing the answers now because we have other things to do, but for once do this exercise on your own and find meanings. Fiendish, insurrection, catacombs, shovel, congealed. Let us move on to the 7th passage. Here then, on the most putrid spot in the whole kingdom, Jean-Baptiste Grenouille was born on July 17th, 1738. It was one of the hottest days of the year. The heat lay leaden upon the graveyard, squeezing its putrefying vapor, a blend of rotting melon and the fetid odor of burnt animal horn, out into the nearby alleys. When the labor pains began, Grenouille's mother was standing at a fish stall in the Rue aux Fers, scaling a whiting that she had just gutted. The fish, ostensibly taken that very morning from the Seine, already stank so vilely that the smell masked the odor of corpses. Grenouille's mother, however, perceived the odor neither of the fish nor of the corpses, for her sense of smell had been utterly dulled, besides which her belly hurt and the pain deadened all susceptibility to sensate impressions. She only wanted the pain to stop. She wanted to put this revolting birth behind her as quickly as possible. It would be much the same this day, and Grenouille's mother, who was still a young woman, barely in her mid-20s, and who still was quite pretty and had almost all her teeth in her mouth and some hair on her head, and suffered from no serious disease, who still hoped to live a while yet, perhaps a good 5 or 10 years, and perhaps even to marry one day, and as the honorable wife of a widower with a trade or some such to bear real children. Grenouille's mother wished that it were already over. But then, on account of the heat and the stench, which she did not perceive as such, but only as an unbearable numbing something like a field of lilies or a small room filled with too many daffodils, she grew faint, toppled to one side, fell out from under the table into the street, and lay there knife in hand. Now, look at the passage, go through it all by yourself. Let us do the questions here. So, what is the tone of the passage? So, is the author affectionate? Is he angry? Is he excited, or is he just being dispassionate? If you go through the entire thing, yes, he is describing a social reality in most poetic terms, but it is definitely not affectionate. He is not really explicitly showing any anger or excitement, but he is a master at describing the most hideous of situations in a most dispassionate tone. So, he is not really, he is just describing it, but not really into it, and that is a style of writing. That is the greatness of Susskind's perfume, that most heinous kind of things are described in most dispassionate tone. Yeah. So, let us move on, give antonyms of the words. You have just read this passage and words taken from this. So, look at the slide here. Putrid, vile, revolting. I want you to find the meanings, of course, but also find on your own the opposites of these words. Okay, and let us now move on to do some dictionary work. I want you to find out the word categories of these words. Please look at the slide. Affected, fated, sensate, and ostensibly. The word categories and meanings of these words. take a minute or two and then we will start solving this exercise. All right. So, the word effected, it is a verb, it means to cause something to happen. So, I effected the construction of this particular building. I effected the introduction of a particular course. So, this is a person who did something, caused something to happen. Fetid is an adjective smelling extremely bad. The fetid smell of rotting fish. So, extremely bad smell. Sensate is an adjective again, something that is perceived by senses, that can be felt only by senses. And ostensibly is an adverb, like most words that end with an ly. So, seemingly, ostensibly he is a very kind person, but he really is not. So, ostensibly. All right. So, we will meet for our next class soon. Thank you very much.